Hi, this is Naroki5. I am going to be doing this until I die or I find something better to do. So please help me achieve this personal and, I think, noble objective by contributing to my Patreon or Subscribestar. Link is down below. Every little bit helps. Thank you very much. All right. Special thanks to my commercial sponsor tonight, Tinfoil Hats Are Us. That's right, Tinfoil Hats Are Us. We have all sorts. Are you concerned about those pesky alien abductions? Don't like getting probed in uncomfortable places? Well, we have the solution for you. Tinfoil Hats Are Us. That's right. We have all styles, all shapes, all makes and models, even the family pet. Color's not a problem. We've got them all. Just remember to call in to the Red Pill Nation website and scream out, "They're not gonna get me!" to get 10% off your first order. And you will also get a free sample of Orange Man Bad Hand Balm for those of you who still have not gotten over 2016. Yes, Stephen King, I'm specifically talking about you at this point. That's right, Tinfoil Hats Are Us, and sign up now to get your free sample of Orange Man Bad Hand Balm. Okay, so the topics for tonight include topic number 1, Anti-WEF Summit underway in London. Well, it's over now, but it was on. It was on at the time when I did this. Very interesting stuff came out of it, and it was probably overdue that they that this summit took place. Hollywood section, Snow White scrapped, massive reshoot, woke cast fired. Yeah, it seems as though maybe the pit of money in Hollywood isn't bottomless after all. Maybe Disney doesn't have a bottomless pit of cash. Topic B, Blade remake turning into a woke disaster. Yeah, that one looks like it's going to get canceled as well. Topic number 3, and this is specifically a Manosphere thing, and I added this at the last minute. Sandman, who is arguably the biggest MGTOW content creator on YouTube, and somehow he's still on YouTube, had his 10th anniversary on October 30th this year. It was 10 years ago on October 30th that he posted up his first video about the Kile Laro. I just thought I'd stand up, take a bow, and acknowledge the effort and time that took. Despite, yeah, it's just I'm just paying my tributes to one of the long-term content creators of MGTOW content on YouTube. This is one that I think Vinny would probably know a whole lot about. Australian voters reject Indigenous referendum. Now, I might even let Vinny go first on that one. Topic number 5, creator of Greyjay app had his channel struck down. That would be Louis Rossman, and the Greyjay app is a great app, from my understanding anyway. Topic number 6, new Israeli intelligence document suggests ethnic cleaning by importing Gaza refugees to Western countries. Canada was apparently right at the top of that list, but I'm pretty sure that they're going to be sending more than a few down Australia and New Zealand's way at all. And topic number 7, pro ice hockey player Adam Johnson killed in a bizarre accident during a pro game in Britain. Race entering into it because the player who did it was black, which is Matt Petgrave. So without any further ado, we've had this stuff pretty much. We keep getting booted off our own show. DDJ has suggested that that's not a coincidence.
That won't happen now, I don't think.
Yep. But Jordan, the Anti-WEF or the ARC Forum Conference, the Alliance for Responsible Citizenship Forum was finally held in London. otherwise known as the Anti-WEF Summit. It was strongly attended. To no one's surprise, the mainstream media completely ignored it, but there were politicians, there were politicos there, pretty much like alt politicos there from pretty much almost every Western country on the planet. Not a really a whole, like, not a lot was discussed publicly from what I have been able to put together, because I mean, YouTube was doing a great job of suppressing ARC forum content, which probably shouldn't come as that big of a surprise to everybody. But I was able to get quite a bit of information from True North here in Canada. I don't know if anybody in New Zealand covered it, but the whole situation is this. Something like this, when it comes up, for the most part, because I have been on the ground floor with stuff like this, it's usually people just getting, and this is the thing about the manosphere too, and this is the part that they don't tell you about the manosphere, right? You get large numbers of people together and they start comparing notes and ideas that have worked on a local scale can now be implemented in various places. So yes, they ignored it. There might have even been a couple of hit pieces about the ARC forum out there, but apparently it went quite well. The initial part of it, I'm having to imagine at this point, is just simply, the old rule of divide and conquer, and making and preventing. This is part of the thing, right? They want to keep the globalists want to keep everybody disunified and not talking to each other, which is why, and we will be covering this, I think, on Wednesday. Joe Biden, the FEC in the U.S. is actually making a Hail Mary to try to control all aspects of the internet in the U.S. It's probably not going to get by Congress, but that is for 340. This particular summit, you're starting to see a lot of the stuff that people were aware of on a macro level. When they get together and they start comparing notes, one of the things that comes up is that they discover that they're not the only ones out there that feel this way. The next thing that comes up when you become part of a group like this, and this is something that I discovered back in 2013 through 2015, when I first became active in the manosphere, is that you start comparing notes with other people about things. And you notice that there are certain commonalities that occur in all of these disparate places where they're using the exact same tactics. Now, they're more successful in some areas than others, but invariably what happens is that somebody has come up with a technique that works against it. And at a forum like this, that type of information gets spread around. Just like, hold on a second, got a scratchy throat here. Just like, for instance, on the issue of false allegations.
I thought it was funny you talked about things being spread around, and then all of a sudden you had a scratchy throat, like you were also one of the victims of something that's being spread around.
Yeah, I don't know. It's like I just get, if I always got some water near me, because whenever I start talking for a long period of time, my throat just gets scratchy, and I have to either drink water or cough, which is why I mute the mic.
Or you can move to Texas and become a broadcast radio show host.
Yes, I could.
And sell your own health supplements.
Turn the frogs gay. That's what I'll do. Turn the frogs gay. That's what they've been doing at the ARC forum. They're trying to stop turning the frogs gay.
Well, I just want a way to turn all the woke people gay, so that way they would be extinct in less than a generation.
Oh, I'm surprised that some of them can't eat. Like their testosterone is so low. I don't even necessarily know if they could get their equipment the males could get their equipment to perform properly. Here in the
do you need testes to produce testosterone?
Well, here's the thing. I mean, we're kind of getting off topic here, but I mean, the testosterone levels, it actually worldwide, but specifically in the West, the testosterone levels have been dropping precipitously. And, you know, that's gonna be an issue, because if the globalists want to actually start a global war, at least in North America, specifically in the U.S., the gun-toting crowd, which voted overwhelmingly for Trump back in 2020, has gone on the record and saying, it's like, what, you've been spending the last 4 years insulting us, and now you want us to sign up for a war and go fight for you? And it's like, no, we're not doing that. No, you vote for Biden, you take the Biden voters first, you draft them. Have them go fight in the war. We're not fighting. That's kind of like the attitude that's going around about potential.
The president's just going to go, but we'll lose. You send these limp-wristed freaking, oh my God, I don't have the Wi-Fi on. God damn it. You know, people just out there on the battlefield with a helmet and a foxhole to sit in. I mean, it'd just be inviting invasion of the continental US by sending that out there. These are who they got to fight us? Oh my God, I reckon we can beat them.
Oh my God. Yeah, it's like, it's estimated that the overwhelming majority of that crowd is not even, well, I mean, they could put them through extended boot. Extended boot is like 3 to 6 months where they really train them before they send them out. But I mean, still though, you know, I can absolutely pretty much almost guarantee that the political right in the United States, in Canada, that's the gun crowd. That's the people that come. Those are ex-servicemen and that sort of thing. And unless they call up the ex-servicemen to go fight, most of that conservative crowd here in the U.S. is in Canada. They're not going to go. They're not going to put, especially after they spent the last, almost decade insulting them. It's like, no, we're not going to fight for you.
Yeah, when the mortars and the grenades and everything are going off around you, and you're campaigning for your safe space.
Yeah. You know, they want their safe spaces. Well, then go fight for them. But anyway, so what's going on here with the ARC Forum is that, I mean, this is what I haven't mentioned is going on, is that there's been a lot of note taking. Hopefully they're going to have more than just one a year, and it's not going to be in London all the time. Hopefully they move it around a little bit. The idea here is really simple, right? You go, just like why I want to try to get to an Acapulco this year. You get there and you get ideas from other individuals on how to effectively fight this. And that's probably one of the reasons why they did something like a media blackout on it for the most part, because they don't want people finding out about this, because they don't like, I mean, getting back to the issue of the manosphere, to quote Raul Tomasi at the 21 convention before him and Anthony Johnson had a falling out, women be hating it when guys compare notes. In this case, globalists be hating it when deplorables get together and start comparing notes. And that's pretty much what's going on. It will get larger. It will get more coordinated. It will get more effective as it goes along. But I mean, the press that came out of the ARC Forum this particular year, you know, was mostly about people introducing themselves to each other, giving a bunch of speeches, and comparing notes. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Vinny.
You'll have to give me one moment just to get me headphones in here, and there we go. Oh, how does that sound?
Pretty good, actually.
Well, we're talking about the World Economic Forum, and I think this was a new thing for me because I've been in the game for a long time, and I'd never heard of the World Economic Forum until all of a sudden the guy that sounds like a cartoon villain comes out with a scary accent telling us we're going to own nothing and be incredibly happy. So it is a good time when there is a meeting of the minds to oppose certain things, because Age Nost calls it the mastermind. If you link a whole bunch of people's thoughts together and you put your heads together and you come up with solutions and stuff like that, there's actually a different mind that gets created in the process that he calls the mastermind. And that's what's happening here. The more minds that are actually looking at the same problem, the more solutions can be found and the more the things that can be realized. And maybe we are experiencing, I don't know, like at Highlander, a quickening, as it were, and things are accelerating on the enemy's behalf, and so on our own. But of course, with media blackoutery, there's something to be said for it. And I think John Ansell, he's a advertiser here. He did a lot of the advertising for the mainstream campaigns in the 80s and 90s here. And he was talking about these issues and how to simplify them for people and make everybody be able to understand it while you're looking at a billboard driving past it at 100 miles an hour, right? You know, you got to make your images that succinct, and it takes a long time to do that. To boil down a central idea to just 2 words can take months or years. And we're talking about the World Economic Forum here and the United Nations, the scumbaggery, the end of humanity and all of that kind of stuff. To compress that into something that even a moron driving past in a car would be able to understand, remarkably difficult. And so he also talked about this idea where you would have a debate platform, where down one side of the debate would be one side of people's claims and things like that, all backed up and veracity, etc., etc. And then there would be the negative case, and the other people would turn up and they would state their case and throw up their facts, and then they would be verified by the other people, and so on and so forth, until you actually have a very open playing field with what you're talking about. And he said that if you're a liar, like the media or the government or the New World Order, you're not going to turn up to these debates. So it would become very, very quickly apparent to anybody observing the debate that because these people haven't shown up, they have forfeited it, right? And that's, I think, what the mainstream media is really showing us here, is that they've forfeited their right to remain part of the debate, really, haven't they? They've given up the debate by blacking out the fact that there is one.
Oh, well, this is one of the rules of propaganda. Like, don't above everything else, don't. I mean, somebody actually posted this up on Twitter, and I actually posted it up on my Facebook page. Do anything but actually talk about the actual issue. Make it about the person, make it about the tone of how they said it, about their looks, about anything other than the actual issue at hand, which is or just ignore it, which is what they're going to do. They won't be able to. The thing is, well, first they ignore you, then they laugh at you, then they attack you. They're not going to be able to ignore this long. I am personally hoping that they make this they have one in Europe, one in North America. Maybe they should have one down in Australia or New Zealand somewhere, about 4 months apart. They don't have to actually all be at them 4 months apart, but it would be a great idea to at least maybe every 6 months have these in various locations, to allow people to coordinate a whole lot better, because there's a fair number of people, I think, than about both Australia, New Zealand, Canada, and the US that couldn't fly over to London to attend this, who would definitely...
Well, like the World Freedom Forum, the WWF.
Yeah.
And create our own thing. And that's the thing about the enemy. They create so many great ideas and things of that nature, and all ideas can be stolen and repurposed, can't they?
Yeah.
That's what the Chinese taught me.
Yep. So I mean, it's like, so they're not going to acknowledge it, and they're going to cease. They're not going to acknowledge it, or they're going to continue to do their bad level best to ignore it until such time as it becomes very, very obvious that, I mean, once ARC starts having some serious success, and it is going, because I mean, at least here in North America, I don't know what it's like down in Australia and New Zealand, but in North America, it is becoming like the Trudeau-Singh alliance in Canada is faltering very badly. The Democrats literally cannot find the only serious candidate that the Democrats put forward was RFK, and they almost ran him completely out of the Democrat Party, to the point where he's considering running as an independent. But it's like they don't have an alternative to Biden in the Democrat Party. And if Robert F. Kennedy, and they did everything, they don't even give Robert F. Kennedy a Secret Service patrol as he's campaigning. That's how petty they are. And it's like, and they think that throwing Trump in jail is going to somehow stop this. I mean, they've got DeSantis, they've got Vivek Ramaswamy, they've got multiple candidates on the Republican side that could very easily go, well, no, maybe Gavin Newsom on the Democrat side, but I don't think so. So, things are starting to the globalists are clearly starting to lose. I mean, the fact that Disney literally ran themselves into the ground, and the fact that when we get to the Greyjay app, it will become even more obvious what's going on here. YouTube has reached the point where they're like literally going into their couch to scrape up dimes and nickels to pay for their expenses, because I mean, that whole thing with the ads, which I won't get into right now. So this was the first one. It looked like it went fairly well. I'm going to have to make a mental note to try to get to one of these. Hopefully they will have something like this in North America at some point, and it won't just be in London all the time. But yeah, it was a promising start. And again, a lot of the beginning is just people simply comparing notes and like sharing strategies, which is exactly what happened with the Manosphere about 10 years ago. And with that, unless you have anything else, Vinny, we're going to move on to the next topic.
All right, let's go for it.
All right, so this is the Hollywood section. 2 topics today in the Hollywood section. The first one is, I think, kind of interesting. Rachel Zegler. If you thought Brie Larson was irritating, and actually based upon we will be doing the Marvels for 340. But Rachel Zegler is so toxic and could not keep her pie hole shut, to the point where she not only potentially killed off Snow White, but she also became so unpopular and so unlikable that she also successfully killed off the Hunger Games prequel as well. It's not doing particularly well. All of the leaks, all of what Rachel Zegler did, and because it's Disney, whatever, like they literally.
What was before the Hunger Games? Was it the slightly peckish games?
No, I don't know what it was. Sound of Songbirds and Snakes is the actual name of the movie. You might want to call it the Slightly Peckish Games. The whole story behind the Hunger Games trilogy is that there was a revolution, and the 12 districts had to send a tribute. It was kind of like part of the agreement for peace, that they would send tributes to. Once a year, they would send a male and a female down to the capital, and they would all fight and kill whatever. That was the idea behind Hunger Games.
Specifically children, but the reason why they had those 12 districts is because each of those districts was preoccupied by the government at the time to produce only one kind of resource. So it might be coal, or it might be fish, or it might be wood, or it might be textiles. And that way, no district would be independent. They would all be completely reliant on the interdependence of the state. And that's how they keep them all completely enslaved. But anyway, go on.
Anyway, yeah. So actually, here's the ironic part. Coriolanus Snow is actually the hero, is the main character in the Hunger Games trilogy. I haven't seen it yet, so I don't know. But yeah, Rachel Zegler was so unpopular that she's actually had an effect on another show that she was doing before Snow White. Snow White turned out to be such a woke disaster that they literally had to go almost back to the drawing board. So they're going to have to spend several.
Can I just get in here for just a second? I was just thinking about this term woke, and why it's failing so bad is because it's not true, right? And people's subconscious knows that it's not true, even if they, in particular, don't know it's not true, right? So people will sit there, they'll sit there, and there'll be something in their mind that tells them that they don't like this, and they may not even not know what it is. But sure enough, reality doesn't care what you think and what have you. Couldn't be truer, because when people fly in the absolute face of it and try to bastardize reality for the sake of an ideology, people feel like they're being preached to by a liar and a cult leader, which is, I guess, exactly what wokeism is, isn't it?
Yes, exactly. Well, another term for wokeism would be cultural Marxism. They have to literally go back, and they have to almost start from zero again, and they have to literally almost completely reshoot Snow White before it can be released. It's not just because of Rachel Zegler, so that's going to be tens of millions of, and don't forget too, for instance, the higher the budget goes, for instance, if you put $100 million into a movie, you have to make, with all of the theaters getting their cuts and the marketing budget and everything. So in order to make a profit of
$2.5, yeah,
it's around $250 to $300 million is what you got to make back. So the more money they spend
to just break even, to not even be a success.
Yeah. It's going to be, the more money they put into it, the more money they have to get out. And Disney has only had one movie this year. That would be Guardians of the Galaxy. I think that's the only one that's actually turned a profit this year.
That movie certainly deserved to turn a profit, man. It was so freaking good.
Oh, yeah, that Guardians of the Galaxy movie was funny. That was the thing about Guardians of the Galaxy. It was always funny as fuck. It wasn't just funny, it was also really deep and meaningful and cosmic and beautiful and creative and interesting and introspective and emotional. It really had just this massive pool of resources and talent that they pushed into this film to create such a significant experience. I think it's probably
maybe even close to being maybe the best Marvel film ever made.
Oh, well, I mean, it didn't take itself, and it didn't take itself too seriously either. That's what I like. That's what I always liked about the Guardians of the Galaxy thing. The other one that happened this week is, as you all know, they just cannot let a movie series that has run its course die. Yes, they're doing a Blade remake. I was actually working at the studio. Well, not while Blade was being shot. Immediately afterwards. Let's just say this was before Wesley Snipes had to do some prison time for tax evasion, but he was acting like a bit of a diva, from what I've been able to discern from some of the people who worked on that particular show. He wasn't coming back as Blade, and of course, instead of getting actual good writers to do it, they brought in a whole bunch of wokesters, and they butchered the movie so badly that they had to go back multiple times to redo the script because it just didn't make any sense. They've already gone through, I think it was 2 or 3 directors, because the directors were just getting frustrated with the movie. So what was basically Blade? Wokeism is also doing a number on Blade, because it's sort of like, Blade is not a character that, just like the Warhammer 40K world setting, does not lend itself well. Like, if you tried to inject woke into 40K, the whole thing would collapse. Blade is that way too. You really can't wokeify a show like Blade and still have it be true to the source material. And that's what you were talking about, right? And the bullshit detectors just go off, and they and it just doesn't work. And in this case, they're starting. I will take this as one.
I'm sorry, just on one point on this. The whole point of making a movie that people enjoy is it maintains the suspension of disbelief. All right, so their brain is able to just sit there and accept what they're seeing. Right? That's the whole idea. And as soon as you inject any wokeism or cultural Marxism into it, you have lost the audience.
Well, I mean, consider what happened. I mean, the Barbie movie did well at theaters this year. The reason why Barbie did so well at theaters this year is that Greta Gerwig, in all likelihood by accident too, wanted to mock the manosphere so badly that she adopted scenes from The Matrix and from Fight Club and from Saving Private Ryan and a whole bunch of those manly shows that came out in '99. And she did it. She was thinking that she was going to parody and mock those shows, in particular Tyler Durden. And what she actually ended up doing was actually paying tribute to those movies and coming up with something that was actually kind of interesting and entertaining almost by accident.
Yeah, it's what I'm going to term a new coin a new phrase here, woke fire. It's when something is woke and it backfires.
I like that. I'm gonna have to remember that. I'm gonna have to remember that term, woke fire. It's just like, yeah, every once in a while they do actually do. Okay, for instance, Handmaid's Tale is still going strong, for instance. They do occasionally come out with something. The original Captain Marvel, for instance, and the Barbie movie. Occasionally they do get something, but for the most part, yeah, what you get is woke fire.
Well, the first Captain Marvel movie was a huge backlash of woke fire against the network. There's what was it, Don Cheadle on a interview with Brie Larson. She touched him and he goes, "Look, don't touch me. I told you about touching me." Like you can tell that there's this kind of animosity, like they just really don't like this girl. And then as soon as her next appearance was in Avengers Endgame, and she's got a new haircut and there's a convenient little plot point that says that she's out saving the frickin' galaxy and stuff like that, so she's not going to be there, except for like the final battle, because nobody liked her and nobody wanted to be her in there. And the only reason why that movie allegedly made $1 billion is because of a controversy where Disney was buying out theater seats by the hundreds, by the thousands, but per showing and stuff like that, so that people would be coming in and it would be set as being sold out, and they'd be only a couple of people in the theater. And I mean, wondering
that's what happened to me. That's what happened to me. I went in because I usually Tuesday night's usually my movie night, and I was told that I looked at the numbers and it was like, and they were talking about something odd. Now Tuesday night is like half price night for the movies in North America. So I went into them. This is like 4 days after the release, right? That even on a Tuesday night, there should have been a fair number of people in there. Up until about 5 minutes before the show started, I was the only person in the movie theater.
Oh my God.
And I'm like, how are they making a profit? Well, it's obvious that they were doing it's something they obviously can't do again because too many people are watching now.
Dude, I went to Wonder Woman 1984, and I was literally the only person in the entire theater. Not only that, but I was the only person working at that theater because they didn't even have a person to come and turn out the lights. I had to go and turn out the lights down at the front door myself when the movie started.
Wow.
I mean, if that's not a punishing critique of what that movie really offered the viewing public and stuff like that, I really don't know what is.
I didn't see one. I'm trying to think. Did I see Wonder Woman 84? I think I've got it on DVD. I'm going to have to watch it now. I think I've got it somewhere in my DVD collection. And of course there was Blade. But anyway, yeah, I'm done. If you have any comments to make, now's your time.
Now let's go into the next one.
Okay, this next one is kind of interesting because I'm pretty sure you don't know who Sandman is.
Does he bring you a dream?
Nope, he doesn't. Sandman is one of the long-term, in particular, Manosphere content creators, but specifically the branch of the Manosphere that I belong to, MGTOW. This is more just a tribute to him because he did his first video October 30th, 2013. I remember it because in that particular video, what he did, he was talking about the fact that the Achille Lauro accident, apparently what happened there is that the captain ran, of course, he ran the Achille Lauro onto the rocks, but what's not so well known about the Achille Lauro incident is that he was up in the control room by himself with his mistress at the point, and not very many people know about that. So there's been some speculation in certain parts from around that incident where it's maybe they were up to no good and they kind of like lost control of the ship again, right? But Sandman has had to deal with everything that a typical MGTOW content producer has had to deal with on YouTube: censorship, demonetization, doxing, death threats. I've had to deal with that at some level, and I'm pretty sure you have too at some point in time. Sandman, though, has somehow managed to keep his channel going on YouTube. I don't know how he's been able to do it, but he has.
Not getting flagged for medical misinformation would probably be the one that wants a killer.
Yeah, well, I mean, Rollo Tomasi's been able to keep his channel going as well. As Rollo Tomasi does not get into politics when he does his stuff on YouTube. Sandman, though, has had to deal with pretty much everything at some point in time or another. The issue that I like, the thing even though Sandman has said, he actually reviewed one of the videos that I did on YouTube at one point as well. It's kind of hard to quantify because it's sort of like, specifically when it comes to the MGTOW segment of the manosphere, the impact really cannot be measured in terms of direct growth, although I will say that, I mean, at the time I became MGTOW myself, there were probably fewer than 8,000 MGTOW on the entire planet, and the number now is close to 1 million. So if you had actually bought stock in that particular thing, you'd be very, very rich right now. What's going on, it's kind of hard to gauge impact when your impact is in guys not being sent to jail, guys avoiding domestic abuse charges, guys ending relationships because they figured out stuff because of Sandman, guys avoiding relationships because they decided that they figured out, thanks to Sandman, some of the stuff that he said, that they were going to get married to the wrong woman, guys that didn't end up having to get like royally screwed over by the family or family courts or by child custody issues because of the information that Sandman gave them. So it's sort of like, it's more like with Sandman, it's more like damage avoided. Guys that are not dead in jail or destitute because they found Sandman and listened to the right video at the right time, and then followed that information and found places like father's rights or men's rights, or found somebody who knew something about the family courts or knew something in my particular, this didn't happen because of Sandman, because of me, but found out stuff around false accusations that potentially saved them from having their lives basically turned upside down or being ruined, or being turned upside down or ending up dead or in jail. And I mean, just today, Undead Chronic had to had that post. I think it was today or yesterday. Undead Chronic had to post up another tweet where he's mourning the loss of another friend of his who killed himself because the family courts basically eviscerated him. Right. And he had no money. He wasn't going to have access to his kids. He'd lost his house. Basically, he'd lost everything. And he just basically took his own life. And I mean, that happens far too often. And I think guys like Sandman and Terrence Popp and some of the long-term contributors to the manosphere like him have saved a lot of lives. And you can't really gauge something like that unless they openly figure it out and they send him a letter or whatever and thanking him for saving his life. And I have seen people send letters to Sandman or post up stuff on his on one of his channels thanking him for saving his life. But yeah, it was 10 years ago that Sandman did his, for 10 years ago and 13 days that Sandman did his first video. So for me, Sandman, I mean, the chances of you actually listening to this are very slim and none. But for all of the people that you saved that you'll never know about, for all of the people that will get saved because they listened to you, for all of the people that you will bring into the light about gender issues because you continue to post up content and do it regularly and consistently, something that I really need to be striving for myself. Just keep going. You know, you're only at if you hadn't been constantly messed around with by the YouTube algorithm or by people trying to censor you and send you death threats, I think you'd probably be up well over 1 million right now, as opposed to just like between 200 and 250,000. So Sandman, I salute you. Happy 10th anniversary. I hope you're still around 10 years from now. And I hope one day that I will actually get to meet you and shake your hand. And with that, I know Vinny doesn't know you very well, but if Vinny has anything to say, Vinny, now's your chance.
Well, Sandman, here's a little clink for you. Thank you very much. I'm going to have a drink to celebrate that, because as a long-serving talk radio show host, I started my YouTube channel, I think, in 2008. But unlike Sandman, I don't have it anymore because I didn't discuss one type of issue. I discussed all types of issues. And unfortunately, that means when the YouTube algorithm starts to ban people for all sorts of different reasons, you think that because you're covering your ass on one particular reason, that'll save you. But it didn't. And so I'm on my last legs, as it were. I think I had to start again. I had 65,000 subscribers. Now I've got 800, a little over 800 now. After almost a year back on YouTube. So I'm getting there, getting to that 1,000 mark, and it's a long, hard struggle. But as a talk radio show host, people have come up to me and said that they were going to commit suicide until they listened to my show. And then they wanted to commit it even faster, of course. And
all those lives saved, Vinny. Congratulations.
Well, there's a metric, they say, for this. In talk radio, for every one person who calls up the station and expresses an opinion to the talk radio show host, there's approximately 1,000 people that would have called up to say the same thing, but didn't. So, and I've had 3 people come up to me and tell me that they were going to commit suicide until they listened to my show. And so if you apply the metric...
we can get reconnected here.
So if you apply that metric, there might be a couple of thousand people. You can still hear me, right?
Come on, let's get reconnected.
I will say that as a no. Did I accidentally mute myself? No, we're still connected. And you're still recording the call. You can hear me, right? No? Oh, no. Okay. That's unfortunate. Well, let's just pause that for a second then, until Naroki gets his things together there. But yeah, it is pretty important, I think, for those of you who do work for the good of humanity, to know that there's probably thousands upon thousands of times the people who do come up to you and say that you helped them out or something like that, that don't. And it's good for Sandman to get this sort of recognition, because when ducks are flying in a formation, you know how they do that sort of triangle formation, and they're all going wah, wah, wah. You see this in geese flying south of the winter or whatever. And what they're doing is they're saying to the person, or rather the bird at the very head that has the hardest job, to fly directly against the wind and to break up the wind for everybody else in the formation. And all of the rest of the geese are shouting, "Come on, you can do it! Come on, you can do it, bro!" You know, that kind of thing. And so it really is important in terms of whatever movement, really, to get this kind of praise from people, Naroki. And I'm glad that you actually have admiration for these kind of people out there, because as a talk radio show host, they say there's a metric for everybody who calls into the show and says something, that there's 2,000 people who would have that didn't. And I've had like 3 people come up to me during the course of my 15-year career doing this, saying that they were going to commit suicide until they started listening to the lighter side of genocide. So yeah, there could be 6,000 people out there walking the earth that I've saved and not even know who they are. And same would be true for Sandman, if not a heck of a lot more, because there's so many issues that are being taught, and that's the reason for the creation of the manosphere, is that masculinity became ostensibly targeted for destruction, like a wild beast in a peaceful area, I think. Became pacified. And so it is important to give acknowledgement to people and to give them encouragement so that they can keep flying into the headwind and break that headwind up for all the rest of us. Good on you, Naroki.
Yeah, so Sandman, congratulations. I have experienced everything that Sandman has gone through. I have gone through at some point in some form or fashion or another myself. I remember when I got my first death threat, for instance, and it was ironically enough, it was like my mom was on her deathbed, and I was back home with her, and I was doing some content, and this guy claiming he used to be a MGTOW did this interview, and it's like, I don't know why people do this specifically with MGTOW, but I mean, because it seems like an easy one to do, but it's sort of like, and this guy, of course, did it, but couldn't give you couldn't even give you a baseline as to what MGTOW was, and I called him out on it, and I sent it to him. I said, "Yeah, this is what I posted up." And he like literally posted it. He sent me a message saying, "You take it down, or I'm gonna fucking kill you." And it was like, well, yeah, you could try that, but understand that I'm sending this message you just sent me off to the police. So yeah, they're gonna know it's you. And of course, he immediately deleted his message. But I mean, Mom was upstairs that night. She had about 2 weeks left to live at that point. Last thing I wanted to do is go back upstairs and tell everybody that I'd gotten my first death threat. But yeah, and we both know it's a hard slog doing this, right? Because people want to cancel you, and they want to do they're so desperate now, and they're going to get even more desperate now. Now that they're starting to deal with really serious organized opposition, that it's going to get even more dangerous, because as the World Economic Forum globalists start to lose the fight, their tactics will, I mean, just like I said, what's happening in Biden here with that new template, with that, what it basically amounts to is a Hail Mary pass to try to take control of the internet. Their tactics are going to get more desperate. And, to have someone stick around for as long as you and Sandman have done so, I mean, it takes some consistency, it takes some effort, and also takes some dedication and a belief in what you're doing. And I hope to be...
Well, if I may be so bold, it also requires a lack of other options. Because there's just no way. I can't get a job, man. I tried, actually, and I had a panic attack at the prospect of being employed, and I was like, okay, my nervous system isn't going to take that anymore, so what can I do? I can't work for the private sector. I hate the government, so the only thing I can do is work for humanity.
Damn straight. Anyway, that is pretty much it for this particular thing. I think, Vinny, you probably have much more of a grasp of what happened in Australia than I do. So I will let you go first.
There is no. There's a good chance that I do not. So it's your show. You're going to have to give me a backgrounder, and then I might be able to fill in some of the blank spaces.
Oh, this is the Indigenous referendum in Australia.
Yep, haven't heard about it yet, but I haven't.
You didn't know that?
No.
Okay. All right.
I have had an Indigenous leader on the show one time, but that's about it. You'll have to fill me in.
All right. So Australia had an Indigenous referendum. It looked like what it would have done is it would have given. It basically would have given. It would have affected. First of all, they didn't flesh it out properly, which is exactly what you kind of expected globalists to do. They didn't flesh it out for what it looked like is basically all major government decisions in Australia would have had to go through an Indigenous council before they got approved. And
that's yeah.
And they didn't write it out properly. They didn't specify the limitations of power or anything. They didn't make it clear exactly what it was, which is exactly what globalists do. They make the writing as vague as humanly possible, and then, well, you'll just have to trust us, and then they pass it. And then it's sort of like it gives them carte blanche to do whatever they wanted to do with it. Well, it started out with majority support in Australia, and then it ended up getting think it was 60, it was like 2/3 of Australia voted against the idea. Of course, the cult of woke in Australia started spurging out over this and accused Australians of being racist and whatever. But the only thing is, if you have a 66% vote against something like this, it wasn't just the white Australians that were voting against it. This was, I think, is almost like literally almost like another arm of government is what they were attempting to do. And it's like when you're going to do something like that, you have to seriously flesh it out. Like they tried doing something like this in Canada back in the early 90s, where they tried to make amendments to the Constitution. And at the time, it was Prime Minister Brian Mulroney, and they didn't do enough work ahead of time to flesh it out properly, and they tried to force it through. And when they tried to force it through, it got resoundingly voted down. And this is
very much what appears to be, from at first glance, a mirror image of what's happening with Indigenous communities around the world. And I'm not sure many of them are Indigenous because humans migrate like a mofo, including the Maori in New Zealand who migrated here according to their own legends, and now they're calling themselves Indigenous.
The Maori didn't even get. The Maori apparently didn't even get. Apparently, it was they didn't get to New Zealand until the time that the Romans were starting to get going. So they haven't been there long at all.
Well, it was around about 700 years before the arrival of Captain James Cook in the early 1800s. So you've got to think to yourself why exactly everybody's so uppity about this now. And what happens is they invite these Māori leaders, tribal chiefs and things of that nature to UN-sponsored conferences. They pay them a small fee, and they put them up in a nice hotel. They get to rub shoulders with all sorts of people with titles and things of that nature in order to indoctrinate them into this global wokeism cult. And they then come back to New Zealand and they say, all right, we're going to have co-governance. What is co-governance? Well, it means we control everything. That doesn't sound like very bro. Yeah, well, it's not really. It's cultural Marxism, but still, we're going to do it anyway. And we're going to start appropriating your lands. And what's going to happen is, or rather what has happened, as a man named Julian Batchelor here in New Zealand has exposed, they're sending out letters to people with land. And in those letters, it says, you don't own your land anymore. We do. We control it. And you just have to pay the rates on the land. And if you want to do anything with it, you have to come to us first. And they're doing this to their own people as well. Even heard a story, can't confirm this, of course, of a Māori man in Coromandel. And he had maybe a 200-acre block of land. And under the local tribal laws, he can't sell his land on the open market without offering it to the local tribe first. And if the tribe do make an offer, he has to accept it. Otherwise, he can't offer it on the open market to get a better deal. How much do you think they offered him for 200 acres of land? They offered him $20,000.
Oh, I was going to say $20,000 and a bag of rugby balls.
I mean, it kicks you in the balls, doesn't it? I mean, yeah, something like that. So
$20,000. That's
for 200 acres. That's criminal, right?
Oh, that is ridiculous.
And so, yeah, it was something ridiculous like that. And so what you're talking about here is, imagine that's the globalists doing that, and they're just using these local tribes and things of that nature that they've paid off and indoctrinated to do this all for them. Because all of that rural land, it's not going to have people on it anymore. everybody's going to be in the cities, in the tightly controlled mega grids that they're building, with the 5G towers and the surveillance and every kind of whiz-bang known to man to keep man in a tight, controlled environment. And so part of this agenda, as it's moving forward, is going to be by the UN or globalists, whichever form they take, betraying their tribal stooges and taking everything that they took off their own people. You see? It's one-step, two-step program. Come in and indoctrinate you to steal everything off your own people so that it makes it easier for us to steal it all off you. Simple, really.
Well, they do the same thing here. I mean, you know, that Northern Gateway pipeline, the one that was supposed to go to Kitimat from Edmonton, they had to go through, and because my brother has had extensive dealings with the reservations in British Columbia, it only took. Basically, what they did is there was one. It only took it only took one, right? Most of the other reservations agreed. It only took this one, and their claim is that they were. Again, I don't know how things work in New Zealand, but their claim is that they were not consulted when the pipeline was going in. And it's like, well, are you the tribal chief? Are you the hereditary chief? Or are you the tribal council? Because by law, the company that runs Northern Gateway has to go to the tribal council for approval, not to the hereditary chief. The hereditary chief in a lot of reservations in Canada, in North America, is more of a ceremonial position. They don't actually have any legal power. But their claim is that they were not consulted. Well, you were not consulted because legally they don't have to consult with you. They consult with the tribal council. And with a lot of natives up here, they get really angry when I tell them that. It's like, yeah, by law they have to consult if they want to build a pipeline on reservation land. They have to consult with the tribal council, not the hereditary chief. The hereditary chief is in some reservations he does have some legal power, but they don't. The hereditary chief does not have the power, at least from what I knew in this particular case, to veto any pipeline going through that particular reservation. But they can make the claim legally, or they can make the claim with a straight face that they were not consulted because they weren't required to be consulted. And of course, you get stammering Hollywood idiots like Mark Ruffalo going up there and showing support for them, and it's like, oh God, it's, you know, it just goes on and on and on. But anyway, yeah, totalitarian globalist, in this case, the globalist regime, the way they make the laws is that they make them as vague as humanly possible, so that there are as many interpretations, so they can interpret the law in any way that they deem appropriate. So, for instance, in Canada, with this next wave of legislation that's coming up around the internet, Trudeau has the term hate speech in there. But what is hate speech? Right?
Well, it's it's what the left hates. They hate the speech.
Yeah. So it's basically anything, and it's being let. Of course, they're not bothered. He not bothering to allow debate on the issue, right? So that particular issue is being left as vague as possible, so the bureaucrats and the other globalists have the ability to interpret that law as they see fit. So it happens everywhere. So with that, do you have anything else to add on this one, or can we go on to the next one?
Just a word on the whole divide and conquer thing. You know, look, nobody ever, I think, really earned the right to rule other people. Really, you can't have it, and that's because everybody's a sovereign being. And this whole question of lineage, you know, I've got a lineage. That doesn't mean I have the right to rule somebody else, regardless of what that lineage is. And we've got Trudeau here, who's the Prime Minister and the son of a former Prime Minister, and we had George H.W. Bush, and then his son, George W. Bush. It's like we still have a monarchy, like it was in Old England, but it's not on paper, it's not official, it's what's known as the black nobility, okay? The kind of like how you've got a black budget that doesn't really exist on paper, so that nobody can really do you for it. And a lot of these people are all related by blood. And I believe a 14-year-old girl, one time for a high school assignment, decided to do the genealogy on the former presidents of the United States. And she found that they were all related by blood. So if you think that there's any, semblance of tribalism and togetherness and things of that nature in these groups, that they're out there for the good of their people, it's like, no, this intermarriage and power and weaving of relationships has been conducted by the elite since they started controlling mankind since our inception, virtually. So don't buy into it and think that there's really only us versus them in terms of racial groups or organizations and things of that nature. They're all against their own people at the end of the day, and they're all against all people at the end of the day.
Amen. Okay, next topic. This one is really interesting. Louis Rossmann came out with this app called Greyjay. Now, you can't actually get it. When Rearson gets back from this wedding, I'm going to be going down. I'm going to ask him how to get it installed on the phone. What the Greyjay app did effectively is that it allowed you to subscribe to creators and not a platform. So it pretty much made the cancel culture or the monopoly, which YouTube still has, it would have made that particular. It would have made the YouTube's monopoly, throttling monopoly, whatever. It would have made it irrelevant. Louis Rossmann got less than a week after he got this app up and running. He got that particular video taken. He got that particular where he was introducing the Greyjay app. He got that particular video taken down. YouTube reacted so strongly to the Greyjay app that even anybody who said anything in support of the Greyjay app had their channel had that video struck and was given a strike. And what ended up happening is that all they've gone and done, all they've gone now is that, I mean, I can bet you there's probably 2 or 3 other people out there right now who are also trying to come up with all Greyjay-like alternatives now. And Louis Rossmann's channel, I'm now subbed to the guy and I'm now listening to the guy, and it's his exact words are pretty much mine. YouTube is at the point now where, well, they're very similar to what Disney was like a couple years ago, right? And in fact, they might even be further along, right? They're at that point now, and we had this situation occur with ads, for instance. And this is something that I noticed with YouTube and its ads recently. On Google, when I watched YouTube, I could only go up to 3 videos, and then YouTube wouldn't allow me to watch any more ads unless I dropped the ad blocker, or I basically subscribed to avoid the ads. So now I don't watch YouTube on Google anymore. I go over and watch it on Brave. Now, at some point, they're going to figure out a way to get past the Brave ad blocker as well. here's the one fundamental issue about that situation. I noticed this because I don't have ad blocker on my phone when it comes to YouTube. What happened is after YouTube went after the ad blockers, they started cramming more and longer ads in to their platform. So now YouTube, like for instance, I have a music selection. I have a saved video list on YouTube where I have all my videos, music videos, which I watch and I listen to. Right, I listen to the music. Now instead of having a ad come up every 2 or 3 songs, you now have 2 or 3 commercials coming up every single song. You have multiple. If you watch a video on your phone and you don't have an ad blocker on your phone, you will get hit with ads every 5 to 10 minutes on a long form video that you're watching on YouTube now, as opposed to before where it was like you had the option of not having ads. So they forced people to drop the ad blocker, and then they cram more ads down your throat. So what you're looking at, so what Greyjay would have done is that it would have made those ads meaningless. It would have made their ability to censor meaningless. And we'll be talking about that some more on 340, because Steve Crowder was somehow somebody leaked the Nashville shooters manifesto to Steve Crowder, and he released that. And of course, YouTube and Facebook blocked it. But it didn't matter because it was on Twitter and Rumble and all the other alt tech channels, so people can still see the manifesto on those social media sites. But the whole thing is that, I mean, to quote Louis Rossmann, Google is at the point now. Yeah, Google is at that point where there's going to be maybe 1 or 2 more really heavy shots, and they're going to find themselves in the same financial position that Disney is in. And they just keep doing the same thing over and over and over again, expecting different results, which is what you expect out of people who are in active addiction or alcoholics. And the Greyjay app is, given long enough, the Greyjay app will, or a combination of Greyjay and some other apps, will eventually get to the point where it's gonna, like, where YouTube's in a lot of trouble, because it's also you also have the TikTok situation here, where you have all of the long form and all the really interesting content creators going over to Rumble and to other apps, and you have all of the short content taken off of YouTube and going over to TikTok. So the only thing that YouTube really has going for it right now is that they've got documentaries and they've got music videos. Now, if TikTok goes up to 10 minutes on its videos, or somebody comes up with another streaming channel that offers just music videos, they're totally screwed. So yeah, the clock is ticking on YouTube, and here's the thing: they did it to themselves, and the Greyjay app is clearly a threat, because I have yet to see YouTube move so quickly to try to reduce the impact of an app the way they did with Louis Rossmann and the Greyjay app. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to you, Vinny.
Yeah, it's something that happens, as we were talking about earlier, is that suspension of disbelief, and your brain just sort of like says, this isn't true, even if you're not saying it. And YouTube used to be a wonderful platform. Oh man, the things you could do with your channel, you could have all sorts of things. And I remember having this discussion with Max Egan when they changed it and they made it all grey, you know, and they took all the color and the life out of it. This is going to be the death of YouTube. And then the demonetization came, and then the deplatforming came, and now the ad blocking blockers have come, and now the huge quantities of ads interrupting everybody's viewing experience, that you may as well be watching frickin' broadcast television. You know, it's just absolutely unbelievable and diabolical. But the thing is, if it's a New World Order controlled company, profit is not their motive. They don't care if they lose money. They just don't care. Why not? Because they can make money up. Period. They can make money up out of thin air. End of story. So it doesn't matter if their ventures fail, as long as it's performing a function that they're happy to. They're quite happy for companies that they build up to tank, because then they can buy them back for pennies on the dollar after they short the options on the stock market. You know, tale as old as time. So, and then they'll use the profit that they make off of the tanking of their own company to buy out the competition, like Rumble. And then you're straight back where you started. And they can use those things in concert to censor basically any form of competition, what have you. As Rockefeller said, competition is a sin. And with that, let's get on to the next topic.
Okay, hold on a second here. Some strange reason the chat just went. The chat just disappeared. Okay, hold on here. Oh, wow.
We're having some grand oddity with the technical difficulties tonight, aren't we, Narrator?
Yeah. We're definitely. So, topic number 4. Topic number 4 is there was a leaked report out of Israel that is suggesting that they are going to move a lot of the Palestinian refugees. That a lot of the Palestinians are going to get moved to well, it basically, there's an intelligence document saying that they're gonna deal with the issue with Hamas by having all of these individuals get moved to Western countries. To nobody's big surprise, Canada is right at the top of that list. Now I have been kind of keeping quiet about this because I didn't really want to pick a side on this. Although if I kind of have to, it's sort of like, well, I mean, maybe kind of sort of with the Israelis on this. But the issue here is that it got leaked. And what one of the ideas that they're going to do is that they're going to basically ship all of these Palestinians to Western countries. And of course, Trudeau absolutely would take in. So basically what they're going to do is they're going to take that problem in the Middle East and they're just going to export it out to the rest of the world. Now, I don't want to say screw off, we're full, but there's enough question marks around this whole situation in the Middle East. In fact, one of my pet theories is that, the globalists are kind of hedging their bets here, right? If Biden wins in 2024, then they will start a war with Russia. If Trump wins in 2024, then what they'll do is that they'll send troops to the Middle East. So this is kind of almost like a hedging of bets. There was enough mysterious, given how legendary, I won't say it's like, I don't really know exactly how skillful Israeli intelligence is, but the Israeli intelligence services are supposed to be the best, among the best in the world. Yet somehow, like for instance, and I don't know if you were on the show when we were talking about this, the Israelis knew about the 9/11 attack before it actually happened. Probably about 50 or 60 Israelis got sent home because they knew about it and didn't say anything about it. So they knew about 9/11, but somehow they missed out on Hamas massing troops along the border, along that border, on that little stretch of land. And they completely botched that and missed that completely. That does not make sense to me in any real way. And it
makes perfect sense. It makes perfect sense to me because I know that Hamas was created by Mossad, the Israeli CIA, kind of like how the Mujahideen and who subsequently became Al Qaeda were created by the CIA. It's a custom-made terror threat. Anytime you're in trouble all you got to do is distract the people, okay? And deploy your assets. Hey, everybody, we're losing an election and everybody hates Netanyahu, but boom, Hamas strikes. Well, we didn't see that coming. How come our rapid Israeli deployment force that can get almost anywhere in the entire country within 60 minutes took 30 hours or whatever? How come it took the jets on 9/11 who normally get off the ground in 30 seconds? How come it took them 15 minutes to get off the ground to intercept those passenger airliners? Unless it's an inside job, a whatnot, you know. So
Yeah,
that's the thing. These people always create the problem so that they can come in as the solution.
Yep. So, I mean, but the issue with this is the fact that they want it. Like, it's either that or it's sort of like, I mean, this is.
Well, if I may, going on from that, they want their Hamas terrorist assets to be distributed around the world so that they can pull false flags in virtually any country for anybody who questions Israel.
That's funny. You just took the words right out of my mouth. You know, there's apparently, I haven't seen it yet. It was up at Kelso's channel where apparently they already have cells in North America that, of course, the Biden administration has not done a thing about. Apparently, they're more concerned about white supremacists than they are about these terror cells. And it's like, and now you're going to import all of these people from Hamas over. And of course, what are they going to do, right? Because, I mean, for instance, there was an event in New York City where a guy came into, I don't know why they're targeting McDonald's and Starbucks, probably because corporatism, but somebody literally went to a McDonald's in New York City and just like literally tossed a bag of rats, a box of rats into this McDonald's. Yeah, to protest what's going on in Israel. I mean, like I say, I don't have a dog in that fight, and I'm not gonna pick a side. But I mean, there's just like the Ukraine, that there's just a lot of stuff there that doesn't add up on the surface. And yet,
well, let's just clear it up. There's no Israelis involved in the fight here. There's Mossad. There's no Palestinians involved in the fight here. There's Hamas, which was created by Mossad. You see? So there's no body, there's no people, there's no individuals, there's no race that you need to hate or be angry with or whatever. It's just the manipulative, cowardly tactics of the global manipulators, right? That's all it is. You know, hey, you're my mate, you're my brother. It doesn't matter whether you got brown skin or a slightly less intoned brown skin if you're Jewish. You know. One second. No, there's mosquitoes down there. Close the doors, close the windows and stuff. Okay. Sorry. Yeah. So I can't do the show now apparently because I talk too loud. No, I'm kidding. So just
well, we're almost done anyway. We only got one more topic left, so. So yeah, I don't really, as I say, I don't want that stuff being exported. I mean, it's gonna affect you as well. It's only gonna make things if they start importing this to all other parties. Well, yeah, it's gonna justify more of the police state. It's exactly what you're saying, right?
Yeah.
That makes perfect sense.
See, I told you, man, everything makes sense if you're incredibly cynical. Don't abandon that cynicism. It'll get you out of a tight jam.
Exactly. So anyway, that pretty much concludes that. I'm not happy about this one. I can see it coming down the pipe. But again, right as it currently turns out, the globalists are starting to lose everywhere. So they're really, like I said, this situation with Biden and the internet right now, which is we're going to be covering on 340, that is effectively what amounts to a Hail Mary pass to try to gain control of the situation. Because I mean, I knew that was coming. For instance, right? Like they're losing everywhere. They're losing everywhere. They're losing everywhere. The media is losing their influence. All of the Hollywood is losing its influence. And it's like, and they just can't seem to turn it around. So now they require direct intervention by the state to hold on. And of course, they don't have control in the U.S. anyway. They don't have control over Congress. They barely have enough support in the Senate, and it's only by it's like literally it's a razor thin 1-seat Democrat majority in the Senate, and some of those Democrat senators don't want to play ball, and the Supreme Court is definitely not going to go along with it. So I mean, yeah, but they're getting really desperate, right? So with that, let's just move on to the last topic, and this one is also probably
let's just tiptoe and sidestep this anti-Semite issue. Go ahead.
Well, I mean, I don't really. I'll be straight up with you. The Middle East stuff is I specifically try to avoid it as much as humanly possible, because I'm Native American. Well, I'm Métis actually, but it's like I don't have a dog in that fight, and I don't want to have a dog in that fight. But yeah, I do mind if they start exporting that stuff over here just to fill an agenda, which is why I'm glad that ARC took place earlier. ARC is I think ARC is potentially a significant way of stopping this. But let's get on with the last topic for tonight. And this one's probably not really up your alley, because I'm having to imagine there's not a whole lot of ice hockey in New Zealand.
I don't think so, no.
Okay, so they do, although apparently I saw they do like basically like the All Blacks in rugby, like the New Zealand national ice hockey team. Actually, I think they're at the sea level world championships. They actually do that whole Maori war dance thing, that war chant thing before they start their games.
It's called a haka.
A haka. They do that haka.
Yeah. HAKA haka.
Yeah, they do the haka before they play their games. So I mean, there are some hockey players in New Zealand, but this didn't happen.
It's funny. I've never actually seen a bunch of honkies doing a hockey haka before, but go ahead.
Oh yeah, I'll have to find it and I'll have to send that video to you. It was actually quite interesting. No, the New Zealand national ice men's hockey team was doing the haka before they started their game.
Well, that comes from a ancient story where some guy was trapped in a kumara pit, and then he came out and did this big dance sort of thing, and it became sort of like this national dance. Basically, the whole protruding of the tongue and what have you, and going up to in that war dance, that's to signify that we're going to eat you. And so it's quite an intimidating display, and we do that to foreign dignitaries when they come to New Zealand. And I was asked about this during a debate many years ago with John Ansell, who I mentioned earlier, and Joe Trinder, a Māori activist here in New Zealand, and they asked me what I thought about it. And I said, going up to foreign dignitaries and protruding your tongue like you're gonna eat them, and shaking your stick and beating your chest and everything in front of them, I think it's freaking awesome. But that's me.
Apparently all New Zealand sports teams, when they before they play on the international stage, they do the haka. It's not just the rugby team. It's not just the All Blacks. Like all of them do it. I'll have to, and they were all dressed in black. They were all black. The New Zealand national ice hockey team was dressed all in black too, ironically enough.
What are they called? The Black Sticks.
Yeah. But what happened is that this didn't happen in the NHL. This happened over it because it's kind of like how in soccer or football, you have all of the best players over in Europe, and when their careers start to wind down, they come over and play in North America, right? What happens in when it comes to ice hockey is that all of the best players come over and play in the NHL, and when their careers start to wind down, they will go play a season or two or three over in Europe. Or if they can't land a spot on a NHL squad and they don't necessarily want to go down to the minors because the minors are considered a development league, what they'll do is they'll go over and play in Europe. So you have a bunch of players that are not quite NHL caliber playing in professional leagues all over Europe. Well, what happened was is that in a game in in Britain, a player by the name of Matt Petgrave. You got to understand with ice hockey, they're basically they have blades on their feet. Everyone's as I know because I accidentally I missed the guy I missed this guy's jugular by I actually missed missed slicing open some hockey player's jugular back when I was a kid, just by a couple of inches, by about half an inch. Um, those skates are kept down on the ice because you're so yeah you're not if you kick a player in ice hockey, like the suspension that you get is going to be at the NHL level or in any professional league, the suspension that you're going to get is going to be very severe for obvious reasons because you have blades on your fucking feet, right?
And not the woke blades.
No. We're talking about and those. Trust me, those blades on those skates are sharp. You know, um, well, what ended up happening is that Matt Petgrave, by the way, he also just happened to be African American, which actually ended up making this situation even more loaded than it had to be. Matt Petgrave kind of went into another player and was knocked off balance. And what ended up happening is that he tipped over 45 degrees, and one of his skates came up and literally sliced open the jugular of another player who by the name
Oh my God.
Yeah. Uh by the name of Adam Johnson. Both of these guys were NHL prospects
Dear
at one
friends,
point,
we are
right?
sad to announce that American hockey player Adam Johnson dies after freak accident during game in England. For his last footage, watch video till end.
American hockey player Adam Johnson, who appeared in 13 NHL games with the Pittsburgh Penguins, has died after a freak accident during a game in England on Saturday, his club said.
The 29-year-old Minnesota native was playing for the Nottingham Panthers in a Challenge Cup game against the Sheffield Steelers when he suffered a slashed neck during the second period of the game at Sheffield's Utilita Arena. The Nottingham Panthers are truly devastated to announce that Adam Johnson has tragically passed away following a freak accident at the game in Sheffield last night, the team said Sunday morning. The Panthers would like to send our thoughts and condolences to Adam's family, his partner, and all his friends at this extremely difficult time. Everyone at the club, including players, staff, management, and ownership, are heartbroken at the news of Adam's passing. Our condolences with his family, fans, and their friends. For more information, please subscribe our channel, like and comment in inbox.
and they probably still are NHL prospect. But it was just a bizarre accident. Although when you look at it, it doesn't quite look like it. But I mean, I know what it's like going around on those skates. You can, like, people who don't know what it's like being on skates and keeping your balance on skates, it's not anywhere near as easy as it looks. You can fall, you can trip and fall very easily, even as a professional hockey player, as a professional, or as a figure skater, or whatever. Like, it takes some serious skill to stay balanced. Like, for instance, when you see like Olympic skaters, like, for instance, basically do a backflip and land on their skates and keep going, like, that is absolutely, like, it takes some serious skill to do that, to even do a small jump and stay on your feet. So yeah, it's very easy to get knocked off balance. Yeah, he was dead in like 2 minutes because they didn't have, they didn't, yeah, and he bled out on the ice. Like, he died on the ice. What made it worse was, unfortunately, the player who did it happened to be black, and the player he did it to happened to be white, so you also had to throw in the race component. And the way it looked, if you don't know how ice hockey works, it almost looked like he did it on purpose. But again, I mean, Matt Petgrave, I mean, yeah, okay, he was what was called an enforcer, but even in, like, I mean, you know, common agreement. I mean, just like in rugby, it's generally accepted that, you know, if you happen to be going past a player, you don't use your cleats and stomp on the guy's head. You know, like, you keep your skates down, right? So you don't knowingly do that. But the way it worked, because the way it looked from people who don't know what ice hockey can be like, you know, players make a very conscious effort to not use they'll use their sticks, they'll use their fists, they'll use their head, but they won't use their skates because they know that they've got weapons on their feet, right? And you know, there have been accidents in the past. There was one back in the 90s where a player was taking a penalty shot on Clint Malarchuk. This happened in Buffalo, and this player's skate went over Clint Malarchuk's jugular, and he almost died too. But this was an NHL game, so they had trained medical doctors and medical supplies right in the building, and they were able to save his life. But this wasn't an NHL game. This was like the next level down. So they didn't have the immediate medical aid there. It was more or less the fact that it was a black guy doing it to a white guy that made it even worse than what it actually should have been. And it's, I mean, race wasn't really a factor. But I mean, I do know, for instance, there's a check, for instance, in ice hockey called a hip check. And if you don't know what that looks like, I was a recipient of a hip check at one point. What it is that the defender, when you're going at him, will get down low, and what they'll do is that they will just kind of like side into you. And what they'll do is they'll come low, and what they will do is they will, like, literally turn you upside down, right? So, like, your feet are in the air. It looks like a spectacular hit because you just go flying. But I mean, it's like, you know, like, hockey is not a very tame sport. You have players the size of rugby players and football players running at each other at about 30 to 40 kilometers an hour. And I can attest, because I know that ice is very hard and cold, and those boards don't move for anybody, right? And you've also got a really hard piece of rubber that gets fired at you, sometimes in excess of 100 fucking miles an hour. So it is not a very tame sport. Yeah, it was kind of tragic. A lot of people tried to play up the race angle on this. I don't think racism was part of it, but because it was a black guy doing it to a white guy, that ended up being part of it. You know, yeah,
We're just rehashing the same thing over and over here.
Yeah.
And what's problematic about our time is that there's so much racially charged this, that, and the other, that people are just basically looking for it, aren't they? If you weren't looking for it, you probably wouldn't find it. But because people are looking for it, even when it's not the case, they still find it, don't they? So
Yes,
this big parasitical plague of mind parasites that have been unleashed upon mankind to make us hate each other and look for reasons to justify our hate.
Well, exactly, and it's like it's tragic that it happened. You know, how
traumatized is this guy after doing that to another human being? Like, well, when you slice a throat, that stuff shoots in a very long thread. I mean, you saw the video. Did you see the guy bleed out? I mean, because just to watch that must be incredibly traumatic. I'm pretty sure.
Oh, it was. I don't think Pettinger or so whatever. I can't remember his name right off the top of my head. I don't think he's actually returned to a game. I mean, there has been, Matt Petgrave. I don't think Petgrave has actually played another game since then. He wasn't given a suspension because it was just a freak accident. But I mean, it was really bad. There was another incident that happened in the NHL with Columbus. There was a Norwegian player named Espen Knutsen who took a slap shot and fired it, and somehow it got over the safety netting and it hit I think it was a 10-year-old girl right in the face and killed her instantly.
Oh man.
Trust me, those are, like I say, those pucks when they get a slap shot, especially if they go over the boards. I mean, those things are going fast. My brother, in one of the few when he went to his first NHL game, he took a puck to the face as well, right?
Damn.
He showed us the picture. Yeah, it's like nose bleeding and everything. That's why they got safety netting at the ends of the boards to make sure that the puck doesn't hit anybody. At the end, people still get hit. Sticks go over the boards. Sometimes the glass at the end of the boards isn't sealed up properly, and somebody hits it the wrong angle, and the whole pane of glass will actually they don't fall down on the spectators anymore. They'll just shatter because it's plastic glass. I myself have taken a puck to the face. Fortunately, I was wearing a cage. But I mean, I still had a headache afterwards because the puck hit me really hard in the face. Right, it hit the cage. But I mean, it hit the cage so hard that my like I actually ended up had a headache afterwards.
That's a concussion, man.
Yeah, the boards. I've been flattened into the boards by who was now a former NHL player, but he was actually considered the toughest guy in the NHL at one point. This wasn't hockey. This was lacrosse. But I mean, the guy just absolutely basically flattened me into the boards. There's also situations where somebody gets hit the wrong way and just happens to get hit into the boards where the benches are, and just happens to hit the side of the boards or the side just as the player's coming out, so they don't get the padding, they get the wood. That's happened a few times. And let's not even get into the actual open ice hits, where you've got guys the size of rugby players on skates that can come up and hit you low at 40 kilometers an hour, at 30 and 40 kilometers an hour. That hurts as well. So there's a lot of stuff that could go wrong in a hockey game. I'm surprised more people aren't killed in that sport as is, but I mean, it's a contact sport. And of course, we also have fighting too in North America. But people are just looking, because of this particular incident, because of the racially loaded demographics of it. It took on a life of its own that it probably didn't deserve. But I mean, they're talking about bringing in net guards into the NHL next year to avoid this particular problem, because at the end of the day, you still have blades on your feet, and those blades don't necessarily stay on the ice the whole time. And Vinny, yeah, you can take us out because we're just about done for tonight.
All right. Well, with that being said, all sports are basically a form of rot for the mind to get you into a low state and keep you distracted from the machinations of the state itself. The Romans knew it. That's why they paid the gladiators as much or more than they paid the emperor. Because they realized who had the more important job to distract people from things that really matter. Like, for example, hey, here's one guy who died on the ice by accident. This deserves your attention, but the 800,000 children that go missing and are never seen again in the continental US isn't worth a mention. So that being said, Naroki, thank you very much for inviting me on the show today. It's, as always, a great honor and a privilege and a pleasure to be with you tonight.
Yep, thank you very much. That is it for tonight. We will be doing 540 either Wednesday or Sunday. 540 looks kind of interesting. We will be talking about, hold on a second, I've actually posted up the topics for 540 here. On 540, we will be talking, 340, sorry. Oh yes, we've got Glamour magazine naming a transgender model as Woman of the Year. Oh, and the Nashville Manifesto manifesto dropped this week as well. Yeah, it's gonna be an interesting one. We'll do it Wednesday. Thank you very much, Vinny. I now have to download all of this content because it's in like 4 different spots now. But thank you very much for listening. And Wednesday or Sunday this coming week, we will get it going. I'm probably gonna be in town, probably until like the earliest that I might go out might be the 17th. So. Thank you very much, Vinny, for helping me out with the show tonight. I was prepared to do this on my own, but I'm glad you showed up. And with that, thank you very